It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 484. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi there.
So we are doing a thing that we have not done in literal years, where we're starting a show without having anything in the show list. I think this is in part because a good chunk of us have only been playing one thing, and that is Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. And I think it was Sunday of last week that I wrapped up the MSQ, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's
Nice.
right.
Yeah. Emma, when did you wrap up?
Thursday.
Okay. Wow.
I finished it yesterday.
Oh, wait. So this past Thursday?
No,
Okay.
this is, yeah. Yes.
I'm like, wait. Yeah, because it only came out on Friday. Never mind. It had to have been this Thursday. I'm like, wow. Okay. It makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we're going to try and thread a needle of talking about it without talking about it. Like, I really appreciate the major difference that the game main story is as compared to what it's been.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the beginning of a new story arc.
Yep.
At the beginning of which we are the old pro.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's like, I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but I don't think the story that they just told would have worked had we not had the last decade of telling our own story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, maybe it would have felt bad. Like, I don't know what folks that are like skippers would think about this expansion, like, or boosted their characters and didn't get to experience all the story before this, because like, I don't know, like I think it would end up feeling like a really weird expansion.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is a story where we're very much we're the old pro, like mentoring somebody else, and in a lot of ways letting them take the lead on things.
Yep.
And we're here to support them.
I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. It was like it felt like what we would do at that point in our career.
Yeah. It was just like the next logical step instead of, oh no, now this is happening kind of thing. Yeah, no, it just felt really natural to me.
Well, and like, I admit I was hesitant going into this expansion, not really knowing what they would be doing, but
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, like, I'm pretty interested to see what the next journey looks like, because do we know anything about the Alliance raid or the normal raid that's coming with this?
They did show what like the normal, like the 8-man raid is going to be. So I mean, we got that teaser, so that's what that is, but I can't remember offhand what the 24-man the Alliance raid is going to be. I know they announced it, but I forget offhand.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what those, because we've got some wildly different places and feels of what those could be. I'm curious to see what threads they will decide to follow with those.
Yeah, because like, exiting the story that we've just been through, like, there's not a direct, obvious plot thread to move forward. Like, there's a bunch of side threads that are out there, but like, we largely wrapped up the main conflict, so that there's not like, for so long we had the Ascians, right, as this constant background force that we knew we would continue dealing with. And now we kind of have a mystery box, and there's a bunch of them that you could dive into, but I don't know which ones they're going to choose to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've got a MacGuffin and we've got some new knowledge, but yeah, what are we going to do with it?
I appreciate that, though. It's wide open. It means that we can be surprised a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's probably the thing. I was waiting to hear people's reviews of this expansion because I'm a little bit burned out on FF14, but I'm at least interested in seeing what they do with the story, and it sounds like people like it. And it's really hard to it's really hard to continually one up yourself by like dragging out a story that just never ever ends.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, oh well, okay, this new world-ending calamity is even worse than the last one.
Right. Like they've avoided the trap that WoW found themselves in of needing to constantly retcon the past to keep inventing a bad person.
Yeah.
That is now the cause of everything. But no, really, they're the cause of everything.
Yeah.
And like we had our world-ending calamity, and it is largely done, and now we're participating in someone else's calamity.
Mm-hmm.
And the stakes are lower, but it's still like high stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it still ends up being pretty high stakes, but it's not driven in the same way as previous expansions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Thalen and I were talking a little bit about this before the show, and again, we're trying to thread the needle here, but like this expansion is like one half is so perfectly timed and would not ever change a thing about it. Like it was flawless delivery. But then there's a lot of rabbit hole diving after that. And it gets a little weird. Like,
I mean,
and it was
unsurprisingly
there was a lot
for a
of
Final Fantasy game. Yeah. Like,
Right.
there were a lot of WTF moments.
Yes.
It's like, Dawntrail had that moment, like, oh, Kefka moved the statues and now the world ended, and we're in the world of ruin. It, like, it's that similar level of, oh, things got weird.
And I think it suffered only a little bit from the fact that the last couple of expansions, when you hit the things are getting weird portion of the story, things kept getting better and better and better. And this time around, you hit the things get weird part of the story, and then things are just weird. Like it's still good.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's building in a different way. I think.
There's not a lot of, oh wait, they did what? Oh, that's amazing. It's a lot of, oh, this is bizarre. I'm on board with it, but this is bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the biggest surprise that I've had, and like I still think this is going to be an expansion that eats a lot of nerfs, because this is probably the hardest dungeon content they've ever released.
Yeah,
by like a wide margin.
Most of the dungeons have very slim margins for error for things.
Yeah.
And so many of the mechanics are, now remember where this thing was or where this thing is going to be. And like I appreciate that they're making us think a little bit, but I don't know, I feel like they've crossed a threshold that maybe should be saved for like EX fights.
Yeah. There's also a lot of like, okay, so here's this thing the boss does, and here's this thing the boss does, and then here's these other things the boss does, and so now you've seen these 5 different things the boss does. Now here's all of them all at once. Deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
With seconds of margin.
Yeah.
Oof.
Like the main times that I had an issue were where there were multiple things that were going to go off, and I misgauged what order they would go off in. Like that's the main thing, is you have to know what order they're going to go off in and move appropriately.
Yeah.
There's
a few fights where that's a bit much.
Yeah, like Thalen, you've not done this. I don't know if Ammo's done this, but one of the expert dungeons has like a, I don't know, haunted house kind of vibe to it. And that's all I'll say.
I've unlocked it. I haven't run it yet.
Okay. Yeah, and like there's this one encounter where there's no messaging which is the thing you need to get away from, but also it covers like half the room, and also you have to get away from it really quickly. So like, I don't know. Like I've watched several guides on this, and they're like, yeah, just try and stay to the middle and run to where you think it's going to be.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Track where these multiple different things go, and then track where they keep going as they move, and don't have any sort of marker on them. And then 2/3 of the room gets covered with that AOE. That I really hope that they adjust that somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I appreciate, the people wanted, some people wanted like harder content and stuff, but I don't think that is required in MSQ required dungeons. I think that they overdid it a little bit.
Well, and there was actually like I've had a mixed track record with Preach as a content creator, but there was a video that he released. I don't know. I watched it today. I don't know when it actually came out, talking about the patch notes where they're going to like simplify Viper a little bit, and how there's people that have basically been like really against that. And he went basically down the path that we've talked about before, that will like, all of us in this channel are significantly better at these type of games than the average player is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like we don't think we are, but we are. And that, a lot of, he said like he had an experience in WoW where when WoW put in the I think this was during Legion, where they put in the simplified raid dungeon thingy that you had to pass in order to unlock heroic dungeons. I forget what that thing was called, where like you had to at least get bronze, and it was a bronze, silver, gold thing.
Yeah.
And it was like all just really basic mechanics. And he said like in his channel all day long, he would have people saying, can you do a simplified guide? I can't do this. I can't make it through bronze. And like, I think I got gold on that on my first try. It was pretty easy. But
yeah, because if you had been writing for, like we had, you knew how to do all this stuff.
But again, like that was a level of understanding that like WoW players struggled at the time. And like he had lots of people that watched his streams that just could not do this. And he like couldn't understand it at the time, but it basically forced him to reevaluate where the average player is, what the actual average player is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I do think like we've made it through it. Like it's fine. And I'm happy doing, everything but expert roulette right now, just because I don't want the frustrations of expert roulette. And I've done all the other dungeons multiple times. I've gotten through most of the boss fights without taking any vulnerability stacks. Like I can do them. I just think they are at a higher level than what most people will be able to do.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's really easy to forget. Like what it was like to not know them, to not understand the mechanics.
Yeah.
And like, and there's there's sort of an unfortunate habit of just being like, well, I don't know, I figured it out. Why can't you?
Right.
But like
the get good mentality.
Yeah, but like that's not productive in any way.
Well, in FF14, at least you know that most people who've made it up to the end of the current expansion have made it through all of the previous content. And so they've at least been introduced to a lot of these mechanics. But the game keeps asking more and more and more. And it's a little exhausting. Like, I'm happy to run those new expert dungeons for people who need them. But I'm not going to run expert roulette until I have better gear or things get mellowed out a little.
Yeah. That was where I hit last expansion, where I was just like, I'm just not that interested. It's not that I can't do this, it's that I just don't want to.
Yeah. Well, happily, I don't feel like I really need expert roulette because, I could just hop on the hunt train and get nearly 1,000 tomestones from that.
Yeah, that's been an experience that I've had, is like I've actually gotten into. There's a bunch of chase fates this time around that also folks are tracking, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I need a capybara mount.
Oh yeah, gotta kill the
Oh my
kill the
gosh,
speck.
yes.
Yep. Anytime you go in that zone, there's a good chance there's going to be people chatting about how it'll spawn in 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's this. I think the thing that finally, because I mentioned, I wasn't actually gonna pick up this expansion. I think what finally got it to me was being like, you know what? I don't actually have to care about expert roulette. I can just stop when the story is done, and I'm just not gonna bother. And like, it was very freeing to just be like, oh, I'm not gonna be trying.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I noticed this time around, which was interesting, is that every zone, and I don't know if it's been this way forever, but every zone had a vendor that sold full sets of gear for that item level.
Yeah, they've been pretty good about that. I'm pretty sure Shadowbringer may have been when that started. It might have started in Stormblood. But yeah, that's been available. And yeah, that's good.
And I mean, I still have sort of new expansion hype. I would like to do some of the EX trials. I would like to get people together and do some of the harder things. I would like to get to the point of doing expert roulette and farming for tomestones. Like, I'm still in it enough to care for a little while.
Yeah.
And I've been just running roulettes to get enough book rocks so that I can upgrade all my gear. And I'm pretty much at that point now. I didn't have to run expert roulette to do that. And yeah, I don't know. I just, part of me still wants to engage with the difficult content, but the thought of getting constant roulettes with people who are brand new to the dungeons that are incredibly difficult.
Yeah, that would be my real concern there. Is 'cause, like, okay, I've successfully completed these dungeons, and I know I can do it, but
Well, and honestly, like the DPS is kind of tight on some of this stuff too. So like I'm hoping that we're gonna get like 7.0.1 soon-ish. I don't know when. And there's a bunch of tweaks in that one. That's where the Viper changes are happening. Kind of hoping that we may get some watering down of some of these. And like, it's not even that they need to do a lot with it. Like, really, if they added just a little bit more time on some of the casts so that you had more time to react.
that's really what it is.
Yeah.
The reaction time necessary.
Because like we got through it, and I regularly do the 95, the 97, and the 99 dungeons in roulette. And they're all fine. And the level 100, the first of the level 100 dungeons is probably I don't know. It's not the best of the 3 100s. The one of the Texaco themed one, as I'm calling it, because it's sort of Mexico, sort of Texas.
Yeah. General American Southwest.
Yeah, it also gave me Final Fantasy 15 vibes quite a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, the third boss of the like haunted house dungeon was extremely fun. Like, once you understand what is happening, it is easier than either of the other two bosses in that dungeon, and it's really fun. Like, there's good boss fights. Man, some of the boss fights are just, I don't know, kind of perfection. There's a couple that like are still asking a lot of you, but they're not asking too much of you, and they're really fun.
Yeah. Like, especially when you get the dance down, it's like, yeah, no, this feels good to run through. Because we've had a couple situations where we've queued in with brand new folks, and we've had the dance down just fine. and and we've hopefully led them to the correct places to stand. But one thing that like I feel like we need to talk about, so there was a whole healer strike thing, and it all started because during the media tour, folks ran the first dungeon with a warrior and no healers. And I don't really want warrior to be changed, but there's been several times where I have finished out boss fights and everybody else is wiped for extended periods of time. I don't know how the one today, how long was I doing it?
It was about a third of the boss's health.
Warrior does maybe
Wow.
have a bit too much self-sustain.
Yeah. Like, so long as I'm just not taking large amounts of unpredictable damage, I could just keep myself alive indefinitely. Like, I've been able to finish off bosses that I couldn't finish off on any other tank. And I mean, and I say that with confidence, having leveled all of them to 90 right before the expansion. So warriors may be a little strong. Like, they've always had lots of health and lots of regen and lots of ways to get back their health. But like, yeah, like as someone who loves warrior, I still think maybe that's a little bit nonsense. Like, it's not super easy mode, but like I was able to maintain it and my cooldowns were up often enough to get through the fight without having anyone else alive.
Yeah, it was a little silly.
I think that'll only get more so once I'm better geared.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like there's like a strong have versus have not division. Like you get it, and so you're very strong, but somebody who doesn't get it is just gonna get wrecked.
Yeah, possibly. Like I have noticed there's a significant difference in, so like I've rouletted quite a bit. I've also rouletted several times without grace. And like all the healers are not created equal either. I feel like Scholar is the strongest.
I'm gonna get my sage up and prove to you that it's not the job.
Every sage I've been healed by has struggled. So like I'm looking forward to this science experiment.
I mean, I'm really rusty at it still, so it may still be bad. It is not a well controlled experiment. But we're gonna try.
Yeah.
The only thing I've noticed so far is that my mount like tilts wildly when I'm flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it banks
It
now.
did add that, yeah.
I want it to stop.
I don't think it will. Like I think this is just how mounts move now.
I think it makes sense for certain mounts, but none of the mounts that I use it makes sense for.
The lighting is wild. I mean, like I said this in our Final Fantasy channel, but you all owe it to yourselves to go out to Dravinian hinterlands and go see Alexandria or Alexander.
Oh yeah, I want to do that.
Because like the bubble is so cool, and I don't know if it always looked this cool and we just couldn't see it, but it's got like all these runes on it and it's wild. The difference in Alexander. It's also just wild, the little differences in little things like, Elder Seedseer's staff always just looked like a hunk of plastic previously, and now it's all like pearlescent, and it is wild, the difference in lighting. Like the one of the basically the level 99 artifact gear.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Mage set legitimately looks like velvet.
I was going to mention that. I love it so much. It looks so nice.
Like the machinist is basically like a Wild West gunslinger outfit type thing. And it's made out of leather and like it looks like leather. So's the Viper one. The canvas looks like canvas. And it's all, I think, just changes in the lighting and textures.
Yeah, like it's most noticeable with metals and shiny things, but it's across the board.
Yeah, like if you've not seen it, you got to go to Crystal Tower. It's also wildly different looking. Like I don't notice it on the character models as much because like Lalafels aren't as expressive as other characters. You can really notice it in like the ears, because the ears are translucent, sort of like cartilaginous things would be. But
I'm just curious to see if Hildebrand is going to be showing up this expansion.
I think he's gonna have to.
I'm doing
what
this.
the
I'm
heck
doing
he's
the
going
last
to do.
expansion's Hildebrand stuff right now.
Oh, it's madness.
I never did any of that, so I need to go back and do it.
It's a lot of fun. And it does
So
have an 8-man.
I haven't even caught up on the other thing yet, but like on the story. So it's like whatever. Just do whatever is in front of me.
The catch-up story was really good. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not connected to, or it's mostly not connected to the expansion, but like, it was really good. It was very true to, Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, they took like the important story elements and beats of 4 and came up with a new and interesting story that called back to them. I was very impressed.
This volleyball thing is madness.
I think the last Hildebrand thing I did was the Mammoth series, and I don't remember what expansion that was from. I need to look up where it starts and go track it down.
Yeah,
because it was the Zodiac weapon of last expansion, wasn't it?
Of Endwalker, yeah.
I think pretty sure the Mammoth stuff was Heavensward.
Yeah, that.
And I may be several expansions behind.
Well, they didn't do one for. They didn't do a Hildebrand for Shadowbringers, so.
Yeah.
I think I actually missed the Shadowbringers Hildebrand stuff as well.
Yeah, no, they just skipped that for Hildebrand. They didn't have one, and Shadow. It just went from Stormblood to Endwalker.
Straight to Endwalker.
I just don't. He's talking about like being sucked into a rift between worlds, and I.
Yeah, he can appear in a certain dungeon as kind of an Easter egg.
Oh my god.
There's the dungeon where like all of the warriors of light from across the all of the reflections are getting pulled in.
Yes, that one.
He can show up in that.
Okay, that's wild.
Because he is a gentleman of light.
I don't know. The thing that surprised me is how happy I've been being back and tanking, like for randoms. I'm actually really looking forward to doing the raids. I've not I don't know, like I've been on the edge of doing a party finder group for the EXs, the current EXs.
It does kind of like the vibe that I've gotten so far is I think that rise in rudeness that we were seeing, possibly due to the WoW exodus,
I think it's
faded.
gone.
Yeah.
Because like I've not encountered anyone negative in a dungeon since coming back.
And we've had a few where
like
people
real
were
bad
struggling.
dungeons.
Yeah.
I've always found that, because I've usually been on like the leading edge of the expansions. I've usually found that the first like week or two of the expansion, everybody's nice, and like week 3 is when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that could be part of it too.
But I've also not been doing expert roulette. And that's oftentimes where the bleeding edge is at. So
that's where you're running into people who are like trying to wall-to-wall pull before like anybody could possibly have any gear and being like,
I mean, I'm wall-to-wall pulling already. That's a thing. I mean,
and it's
fine.
Dungeons are set up at this point so that there's usually max of 2 packs that you can pull before there's a wall anyway, and it sucks, but I don't know, after the last couple of expansions as a healer, you get in the mindset of, oh, your cooldowns are not actually for the bosses, your cooldowns are for the trash, and to get through the trash as quickly as possible without the tank dying. And once you switch your mindset, then it's fine.
Also, I mean, like, as a tank, I'm also using a lot of mitigation abilities while I'm doing this to kind of help ease it out a little bit. I have no idea if I'm harder to heal or easier to heal than randos.
I had one perfect rando who was definitely easier to heal. I think he was hitting all of his mitigation buttons at the perfect times. That was
Yeah.
that one perfect dungeon run I told you about where it's like
Yeah.
the tank was on point, both of the DPS were amazing, and we just breezed through. It was the best dungeon I've run so far this expansion.
And a lot of it's a combination of all of those elements too. Cause like if your healing's on point and your tanking's on point, but your DPS isn't, it's still gonna feel like a slog.
Yep.
Because things are gonna stay alive way too long.
Yeah, and it makes it easier to heal if things are dying faster on those big trash pulls.
Yep. Yep. Because it's usually like where things start to get dicey is after my blood wedding is fallen off and it's not come back up. Because like that's a thing that like I do lots and lots of healing on hit. My prediction seems to be true. I thought Solution 9 would be the new hangout spot, and it is absolutely seeming like the new hangout spot.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I think maybe they may have done away with it with today's patch, but there was a spot where you could like create a tower of people, just like standing on each other's heads. People were real into that last night, and I haven't seen anybody doing it today. So
No.
I mean, I feel confident talking about Solution 9 since they basically, broadcast images of it all before everything.
yeah, like it's basically common knowledge that for some reason one of the cities is this weird cyberpunk thing.
Yep. It's got like the most chill music ever.
It does. God, the music in this expansion is
Oh,
so
it's
good.
it's so good.
So good.
All of it.
Yes.
I don't think there's one bad piece or even one mid piece. Like they're just all really good.
Like, and it's I think what brings it home so much is there's so much variety this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in Endwalker, there were a lot of takes on the Endwalker theme that we
Yeah.
kept experiencing.
Hmm.
And that was fine. But like now every area is wildly different. So like you have, pipe music in Not Peru. You have, sort of Wild West rock type music in, Texaco.
Yeah.
The dungeon music is so good.
Yes.
Like the fight music is good, and I didn't even think that I would really like it's like I think I said this last week, it's the theme from the trailer, but like I didn't think I would like that as fight music, but I really do. I don't know that anyone is ever going to beat Shadowbringer's fight music, but
Yeah.
trying to think like I even say it without like going into further details. Because like I'm mentally playing a game of trying to skirt things.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I don't want to ruin anything, but also I don't know. Another thing that I'd like to do is go back and do all the various raid content that I never did.
Yeah, I've got to go back and finish those up too, because there's a lot of good story in those.
I mean,
Like-
if you've not done it, I highly suggest everyone go do the Alliance raid from last expansion, because it is really good story-wise. And it has some really freaking good fights. Like, it's maybe the best designed Alliance raid they had done in a while.
I've done the first third of it because
Okay.
I very clearly remember. Well, wait, was the Tonka truck fight from that, or was that Eden?
That's Eden.
That's
Okay,
Eden.
never mind. I have done
That-
the first third of it, but I guess I don't remember any fights from it. Because
Yeah.
for some reason I was thinking the Tonka trunk was maybe Bayergot, but yeah.
Yeah, Endwalker's Alliance raid is all based on the 12. So it's very Greek god type themed.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the personifications of the 12 all look like they're straight out of Roman Greek mythology.
Yep.
And also they like to incarnate as animals.
Yes. I actually feel like I care about like these deities we picked so many years ago at character creation.
Who, like, up to this point we were never really sure if they were even really real.
Right. And mostly were like dealing with primals associated with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like there was the thing. Like honestly, I'm trying to think if they ever really came into anything at all in A Realm Reborn, because praying to the 12 was part of the attempt to stop Bahamut at the end
Right.
of the original game, but then they really didn't enter into the story
No.
much after
No.
that.
Like we would deal with cultists of the various people, but like they were messed up. Like I'm pretty sure the dragon cultists that would turn themselves into dragons in Snowcloak were associated with Halone.
I mean, that's who Ishgard worships in general, is Halone, the Fury.
Yeah. But yeah, like definitely like spend the time at some point and go unlock the Alliance raid. All the fights are really well designed. They're very guessable, for lack of a better term, where like if you understand the visual language of how raid fights work in Final Fantasy, you can kind of make your way through it without knowing much about any of them. And like that's the best version of fight to me is when that it is well messaged, and if you have experienced Final Fantasy fights before, you can wing it.
Yeah, you don't have to have done homework ahead of time to have a chance. I probably still will do the homework, but
I didn't unlock the raid, and at some point I need to go back and do the Endwalker raid. I don't know
Pandemonium
what
it's very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like it ties heavily into La Habrea's like past and who he was and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever finished Eden. I know I did the Tonka truck fight, but that's I think that's as deep as I made it in.
Yeah, Eden as well. I've done the first 2/3 of it, and I never did the final 4, and I need to. I'm kind of sad that I didn't, because apparently, if you've completed Eden, then at one point when you go back to visit the first, like Gaia is there and like plays a prank on you, but she wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
Tam, how far into the pre-content have you made it?
The
pre-Dawntrail, post-Endwalker.
Probably nowhere.
Okay. Well, like just at a high level, there's a moment where you get sent back to the first because of reasons. And the thing that annoys me about that moment is we're never sent to go talk to Feul, aka Titania.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be real
they're
mad
gonna
about
be
it when they find out.
So mad.
Like, why? Why would you do that? Like every time we've ever done that, they've been mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought when they sent me back there. Was like, wait, we're just gonna piss them off.
Yeah, King Titania is gonna be real pissed at us.
It's a classic. That's what we do, is piss him off.
No.
So everybody was giving me crap about not doing class quests. I'm realizing I've not done class quests for most of these classes.
Bel.
My God, Bel.
Prior to Endwalker, I went on a binge of chain leveling classes and got everything up to 80. And I never bothered with any of them because as soon as I finished one, I was flipping to the next one to level it. So I was trying to play Summoner. I didn't have Ruin 3. I didn't have Bahamut. I didn't have anything.
Bel, I need you to cast your mind back to the olden days, back before Heavensward, and how painful it was when you got into a dungeon with a white mage who hadn't done their level 50 job quest.
Like, I leveled most of these things through Beast Tribe quests. Like, so, yeah, it was just too funny. I hadn't done the last quest for Gunbreaker. And that was what everyone was giving me crap about. Even Saul was throwing me shade, logging in on the day after that show just to tell me to do my quest. But like, yeah, no, there's more of them. There's way more.
This is what your actions have brought, Bel.
It is like, because I'm like, Summoners, the feels weird. I have all these buttons that never can cast. Because, like, it will let you drag them from your spell book. You just can't ever use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. With actually having Bahamut, the rotation makes sense.
So suddenly things activate.
Yeah. Buttons work. Although I will say, like, I got to throw shade at them because I don't understand why they didn't just shift Ruin and Try Disaster to whatever the current Eggy that you have up is. Because, like, really, Gymshine and Precious Brilliance are just Ruin and Try Disaster of a flavor.
So I'm trying to remember, are Ruin and Try Disaster, are they summoner
Single target,
or are they Arcanist abilities?
They're summoner, but they're the single target and they're the multi-target.
Yeah, no, I know what they are. I'm just trying to remember at what point we get them.
Ruin is Arcanist.
Uh-huh. I think that's probably what it is that it's an
Maybe.
Arcanist ability. There's
They
probably
probably have
something.
some terrible legacy code.
Probably.
Yeah. But like,
yeah. Because like when
I guarantee
you
I could reduce the button count on every class by about 50%.
Yeah.
And they would play no differently.
Because like really when you're cycling through your primals, you want to hit the thing that lit up and is now of that primal.
Yes.
You don't ever want to hit the thing, like at least you're never going to hit Ruin or Try Disaster. And you just have special versions of Ruin and Try Disaster for each of the forms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically if you ever get in a situation where you need to hit Ruin or Try Disaster, you've messed up your rotation.
Exactly. Like you're only and there's probably better filler attacks while you're waiting on it to recycle.
But why? But where would your Ruin 4 procs go? Those are so important.
It's
They're
its own button.
Vital to the experience of the class.
It doesn't
to have a random button that pops up every so often for you to hit.
Yeah, but like it's not like Ruin 3 turns into Ruin 4. It's just this random button that's sitting out in the ether. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of classes that I don't notice it on, but this specifically I noticed that like most of these buttons should just be modal.
Yeah, I think that's
honestly,
similar to why Summoner has a physic button that you should never ever push because it's useless.
Oh, it's so bad. Like it's
stunningly bad.
If you ever have to push it, you're in trouble.
And it won't help.
No, it won't help.
It'll heal like
400 cure
of your bar. It's useless.
Yeah, 400 cure potency, and right now I have 32,000 hit points, and I'm at 85.
Yeah, no, but it's because it's an Arcanist ability, so you still have it.
I mean, Scholar shouldn't be hitting that button either.
No.
That's one thing that honestly they could probably do to resolve some issues with their classes is just do away with the Arcanist and Marauder
they need to ultimately they need to split Scholar and Summoner and just do away with classes and just have it be the jobs. But I'm pretty sure that is a long, painful, unwinding process that
there's a hamster
ever actually get to do it.
There's a hamster running on a wheel somewhere.
I'm sure it's an expansion level of effort, and it's like, hey, how much of your expansion do you want to give up for that?
Yeah, like honestly, I'm amazed that they were able to do as much as they've done with removing the secondary requirement for jobs and getting rid of the whole weird cross-class skills. Like I'm surprised they were able to do that much.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's been somewhat impossible to get onto Cactuar in the evenings until tonight, so one of the features that helped a lot the first couple days is if you couldn't get onto the server, you could data center travel over to like Dynamis, which is not very populated at all. And in fact, they added a whole bunch of brand new realms, and the server that we all independently picked was Kraken on Dynamis.
Because it's the best name, obviously.
It's the best name. But it was hilarious because like the same night we had like there were 3 or 4 of us that had independently picked Kraken as the server to travel to. And coming back to the game, like I was really wanting to re-experience the early levels and the whole New Game Plus thing is dumb. So I created a baby alt over there because it's a brand new server and it's a surreal place to be because everyone is a sprout. Like, so you can't necessarily tell how new of a player they are if they're a sprout because everyone's a sprout. But it's been wild playing through the expansion, and like there's some surreal moments, like when you get sent around to visit all of the grand companies, there are all these little cutscenes where, like, you know, Raubon and Nanamo talk, or Elder Seedseer talks, or you know, the Admiral talks.
Everything looks so much prettier.
It does. And there's this one voice acting moment that is so rough. Okay, first of all, the crowd tech wasn't what it is now. So like the voices are single voices at a time in the middle of utter silence in these crowd scenes. But at the end of the Ulda one, it's towards the middle and towards the end, there is this moment where this person talks, and it is very much, it sounds like Monty Python doing an old lady voice. Like it's, and I'm not sure which one of them it reminds me of the most, but it's very much some dude, probably from accounting, pretending to be an old lady.
Yeah.
And it sounds so hilarious.
Realm Reborn voice acting could be real rough.
Oh my god, Alphino and Alice's voices.
Oh man, it
They're
reminded
so
me
whiny.
why I hated Alphino so much back then. Now he's just the annoying little brother, and you hate him, but you really love him. But back then, whew.
He was an annoying little shit.
Yeah.
He sucked pretty bad.
But it's fun going back and seeing all of that stuff again, and some of it has been so long.
Pray return to the Waking Sands.
Yeah, but they give you 50 tickets, so you can just use those.
Yeah, I had forgotten
Goodness.
about those. And I don't know when they put those in. But
Yeah, I don't know when they added them, but boy, it's a huge difference.
yeah. Because, like, Vesper Bay is still way out in the middle of nowhere. The thing that's killing me is I keep forgetting to attune to Aetherites. Because
you're
it's
already
been
attuned
so
to them.
long.
Why would you need to?
It's been so long since I've ever had to attune them. So, and also trying to remember how zones connect to each other, how to get to Orthus. Yeah, and like they've simplified the process of getting a chocobo at least.
Yeah.
But it still takes a long time. It's still MSQ gated, and everything, like level gains are so outrageous.
Yeah, like you just out level that. Even just doing MSQ and some incidental random stuff, if you feel like it, you just massively out level things so quickly.
Like I just did Totorak, and I think that's a level 20 dungeon, and I was level 45.
So I just got a sense of how little I did at the end of the last expansion as I dipped to a map and realized that I don't even have all of the ether currents.
Oh, so you can't fly.
So yeah, I can't fly in 4 zones.
At least they reduced the number of currents in a zone after the expansion is no longer the current expansion. But that's definitely still a thing. You still have to go around and collect them.
Yeah. But yeah, there should only be 4 of them per zone now.
Well, there's 9 of them.
Well,
5
yeah.
regular and 4 quest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so there'll be some side quests that you need to do and some go hunt with your compass.
I always feel so bad about those side quests because they're always part of a chain. And they're like, you'll totally help us with this problem? Sure, buddy.
Every time I get one of those, I'm like, yep. Right after I go out for some cigarettes, I'll be right back.
I'll be back someday. Worry not. I mean, I do come back to those because then I use them to level Paladin. But yeah,
They're like I do too. Like I've been soaking up old quests that have been lying around, but the experience is just so bad for side quests.
it's not great. But sometimes there's good stories in them. So
Yeah. I mean, like
they've gotten pretty good
especially
at that.
in Not Peru, I had been soaking up all the quests there, and I really love the people in Not Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the little side stories have been amazing.
I did
That's-
most of the ones that gave me jewelry because I needed that while I was leveling.
Yeah,
But
there's that too. All the jewelry ones, yeah, and sometimes hats. For some, like sometimes they're main story quests, and sometimes they're side story quests. Have the hat in them. Talk about the people. Like, do we have any idea which are going to be the societies for this?
I'm pretty sure the Pelu Pelu are one of the.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
I think they're the crafting one, maybe.
Yeah.
I have no clue what the battle one
Mhm.
and like Pelu Pelu will either be gathering or crafting.
Yeah.
Do we get all three usually in the same patch, or do
No.
they get doled out?
No.
They dole them out one at a time. The battle one should come first. I think it usually goes battle, then gathering, then crafting.
I think it's what they did last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Battle's the one I want the most just for leveling alts.
Yeah.
Like-
I'll have gathering and crafting maxed out here in a couple of days anyway. So
I need to work on crafting. Like my crafting is so pitifully low.
yeah.
Like I have everything to at least 22. I have
So-
carpenter to 50, blacksmith to 35, armor to 25, goldsmith 35, and then
Mhm.
everything else is in the low 20s.
So ignore Ixal quests. Do check your deliveries for your grand company each day, and like up. It's definitely at that level. Like every single time you turn in one of those deliveries, you will get multiple levels in
Okay.
the crafting job in question. Like even at the current levels, like you get a huge chunk of a level turning in one of those each day. Like that's the main reason that my crafts are where they are, is because I've been making a point of just doing those every day.
I mean, my land jobs are all 80 plus,
Mhm.
but like I don't know what it was about leveling them through Endwalker, but it felt miserable.
Yeah.
And it could just be that we had whatever that one, the firmament zone to power
for
level
gathering.
your
Yeah, so
gathering.
you could level your gathering there, but yeah, we didn't have an equivalent for crafting. Well, and pre 50, like your society is the Ixal, and Ixal crafting quests suck.
Yeah. I got carpenter to 50 through him, but it sucked. I hated it. I mean, I have capped out Ixal reputation, and I guess Moogles is the next one for me. But
Yeah. Moogles are better because they're more in line with the way the crafting quests have been from that point on.
Hmm.
Like they give you some stuff and have you craft a thing out of what they gave you, and then take it somewhere.
and I have unlocked custom deliveries, but I have not done any of them at all because I think I'm way too low level.
Yeah, the lowest level custom deliveries you would probably need to be a 50 craft. You would need to be a 50 crafter for. Yeah, those are a very good source of scripts. I haven't done mine yet this week because I'm hoping I can get a crafting job up to 100 so I can get orange scripts out of them. I'm
So you
going to
can
need
get
so
good
many
gear.
orange scripts. Yep, and materia.
What's the max materia this time around?
12.
Okay.
Yeah, 12s for normal slots and 11s for overmelding.
I mean, I've got 11 in my tanky set at the moment just because lots of it dropped.
Yeah, that's another thing the hunt is really good for. Is if you need your battle materia, I have enough clusters to buy 70 battle materia right now.
The hunt has just been happening at bad times for me lately.
Yeah, it's just whenever the train gets together. And right now it is kind of painful to follow the train because, it takes a long time to get into the instance you want.
Right.
And in the back half of the train, people tend to get a bit punchy and start pulling things too early. And
Hmm.
That's happened a lot
bad.
on S's lately where S's have gotten pulled early.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had never really done the S rank thing, and I kind of want to, start chipping away at those achievements. And so I've been grabbing them whenever I see them, but there's been several times where, like, they have said, okay, we're pulling at X, and then I get there well before X, and it's dying as I'm flying in.
Yeah, somebody didn't want to wait. Sadly, there's not much you can do about that.
No.
Hope that the person who's doing that, gets whatever they wanted out of it and stops showing up.
I mean, I also really want to do Eureka, but my God, Eureka is obtuse.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Like, I think it's one of those things that once you have a character sufficiently leveled, it's probably fine, but right now it feels miserable.
Yeah, it's that whole thing that it's got its own leveling system, and dying causes you to effectively lose XP in that leveling system. So it can be rough. Boja's better because Boja was balanced more for people being able to run around on their own and do stuff and then just gather together for fates. Eureka, it was very much balanced for you're going to get in a group and roll around with a group and just grind your face off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you only have to level once, but it will be painful until you do.
Yep. But yeah, I need to go back into Eureka at some point and see if I can finish out the storyline, do the Baldesian Armory. Because that's all I've got left is or Baldesian, I guess. The Baldesian Armory.
There's still people doing it.
I mean, there's a cool mount out of it. I mean, similarly, I need to go back to Boja and wrap that up too.
Yeah, I didn't get terribly far. I think I got like into the third area of Baja.
Yeah, it sounds. I got it to the point where you have to go into a raid and do a raid, and I just never could care enough.
Ray was super big on Baja and kept trying to sell me on the concept of it back when she was fairly active.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just for running around and leveling, it worked really well.
I don't know. I've been shocked at how amped I've been about the game after being pretty meh about it for a really long time.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't sure I was going to come back for this expansion, and now I'm just having a blast.
Yeah, about the same here. Like I knew I wanted to finish up, Endwalker at some point, but I was way behind, and getting up to Dawntrail and then Dawntrail itself. Yeah, I'm excited about the game again.
I think a lot of it for me is just the fact that I've returned to actually tanking all the time.
Yeah.
Which was a thing I enjoyed, but then forgot I enjoyed somehow.
Yeah, I'm kind of reminding myself that there's a lot to this game and I don't have to care about a lot of it. I can just do the stuff I care about, and frankly, I'll have a better time.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of systems in the game that I never really explored, and given my penchant for such things, I will eventually. I just also have decided I don't have to if I really don't want to. But like the whole hunt thing has been interesting. That was a piece of the game that I never really followed heavily. Like if there was a hunt running and I just happened to like catch the edge of it, I would sometimes follow it along. But also I've been using the party finder a lot more than I ever did. And that's like, I think we can also blame my recent experience with Pandaria Remix and having to use the party finder there a lot and becoming more comfortable with it. But like, yeah, I've created fate groups already. I've done several things like that. So, and definitely like if there's a hunt going, I'll hop in the party finder because inevitably someone's got to party up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Happily Cactor is very serious about for hunts. Somebody creates a party in the party finder and you join the party finder. You don't ask for a party and like expect someone to pull you into one.
Right,
So,
you can always tell people from not the server.
Yeah.
Because they'll like one in chat or like whatever in chat to try and get an invite.
Yeah. Everybody's like, and
just
everybody's
party finder.
Party finder. But what that means is that I can just go into the party finder, advanced search, and set it to search for the hunt once per
Right.
minute.
Right.
And most of the time, it doesn't. Nothing. There aren't any, so there's no message if there's nothing that matches. And if there's a party or one or more parties that match, I see a little message pop up that's that there are parties, and so I look and see what they're for and decide whether I want to join or not.
Well, and I got into a link shell off of Aether Hunts for Cactuar specifically, and I mean, there's enough people running the relay script that it always gets pinged when something's going on, and it's been great to know when S ranks or whatever are happening.
Yeah, I was in a couple of link shells back when I was playing before, but I was away from the game for long enough that they kicked me out of them.
Yeah. Well, there's a channel on Aether Hunts for Cactuar, and all you have to do is I forget what you type. If you go into the channel, everybody's typing the same thing, and you'll get invited to one of a random number of link shells, because obviously there's no link shell big enough to have everyone in it.
But yeah, I should probably get back in one of those.
I think if I had been in that long or in the past, that probably would have been a thing that had kept me around more often. Because I just in Guild Wars 2, I love doing the world boss train. I love doing hunt trains. I love default activities that I don't really have to think deeply about. I just go with the train and write it until I get tired of writing it and then go away and do something else. Because the games I tend to stick with, there's some default activity that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That when nothing else is going on or there's nothing else I want to do, there's a thing that I'm enjoying and can go do.
It's interesting. I've never had that in this game. And I think it's kept me from getting terribly deep into it. Because usually what I want for that in a game is something I can just kind of go do by myself. And there just isn't an easy casual thing I can just do by myself.
Yeah. I mean, the closest to that is Zodiac weapons.
Yeah, but that's not I still have to run around doing fates. I'm still beholden to other players.
I mean, yes and no, especially if you're looking at the older ones. A lot of those you can just do by yourself. When I came back at some point and decided I wanted to play Dark Knight for a while and I wanted a fancy glowing weapon, I did several rounds of those all by my lonesome, and just because you can queue for older content as a undersized party and just go solo it.
Yeah.
And that
it's just a thing that I'm oh, huh. I don't know. It's really helped me kind of just accept where I'm at with the game, to be oh, right, it's cool. I'm just going to go back to painting minis or playing Elden Ring whenever I'm not doing the story stuff. And I don't feel like I need to race. I can, I'm not trying to catch up to anybody.
Yeah.
It's actually been very refreshing for me to remember that oh, I open my I log in and I see 3 bars of buttons and I'm just but I realize that I actually don't do that much combat. Doing MSQ is not actually that much combat.
No.
So the fact that I'm pretty done with the combat system, it doesn't matter that much. And well voice acted text never gets old, so
yeah, that's been a complaint by some players, is that the longer the game's gone, the more and more the MSQ is a visual novel.
It is. The MSQ is absolutely a visual novel.
Yeah.
But if it weren't a visual novel, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I'm not unhappy about this.
Right. But I've noticed going back and playing the early content, there was way more combat in the early content.
Yeah.
Perforated by limited cutscenes.
Yeah. But it wasn't interesting combat. I think that if I had the same amount of combat now as I did originally, I would not be enthusiastic.
See, I'm on the other side. I felt like going through this expansion, there were periods where there was so little combat that I was losing interest. Even though there are lots of cutscenes, there was interesting story happening, but I need that punctuation.
Yeah, I was pulling random shit while running between story missions just to have something to do.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think it's very much the difference between if I never play a hotbar combat game ever again, it'll be too soon. So it's like refreshing that it's like, oh yeah, right. This is just a big visual novel for me, punctuated with like a combat mini game every hour or two.
Ammo, since you tend to be more up on these things, do you have any clue what the timing is of some of these patches that are coming out?
I think it's usually been about 2 months after, if I remember correctly. It might be closer to 3. I don't know if there's
I
still
think
kind
the
of
raids hit next week, don't they?
yes, but then it's like it's the raid, and then a week or two, and then it's like the extreme versions of the raid. I think they do that still, and then the actual story content will be a couple months though.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see whether I will stick around, because last time around I stayed and did the raid, and then I bounced before the next actual story. I feel pretty happy here right now, but it's gonna be a while before there's something new.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even stay that long in Endwalker. I didn't make it to a second level cap character, and right now I have 2, and I'm working on slowly leveling a 3rd. But yeah, like I am full on invested right now, and I don't know how long that's gonna last.
I'm bouncing back and forth between this, Minis painting, and Elden Ring, and I feel like it's a much more chill experience than I've had in previous expansions, which I actually really like. I have done it's a new expansion and I want to play. I remember doing Red Mage. It's like, oh, I want to play a new expansion, but I want to play it as Red Mage. I want to burn Red Mage up in less than 24 hours.
There's a lot of painters and vipers. I'll be real happy when the enmity of the I keep calling them painters, but what's the actual title?
Pictomancer.
Yeah. Like I'll be real happy when their enmity gets fixed, because like
it's a bit much.
It is so much that I will tag an entire pack and then I start running, and it will look to me that I missed one, because one of them will be backed all the way to like the teal color of the default no aggro state. Like the amount of aggro that they can dump on a single attack is just nonsense.
The first few days after the expansion, like the PvP maps were pretty funny, because it was just like
it's
the
just
huge
Pictomancer.
Yeah, and their AoEs from their limit breaks just like everywhere.
I had to turn off group animations because Pictomancer is so obnoxious.
Isn't it great?
No, it's not.
It's really great when you're playing a Pictomancer, and it's really not when you're anybody else in the party.
Like I couldn't see anything on the ground. Like, I hope I'm standing in the right place.
Yeah.
Where does Pictomancer even start? I found Viper.
Gridania.
Old Gridania.
Oh yeah, that tracks.
It's over by the Conjurer's Guild. There's a conjurer who's really, really mad because a Moogle is causing trouble.
So we're gonna draw pictures of Moogles.
And she's just over it.
Like, it looks like a hilarious class. At some point I will level it, but also it's real rough to be in a group with them. At least as a tank, it's real rough to be in a group with them. But they've already said that in the 7.0.5 patch, they're fixing their enmity levels.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been wild to see so many people playing, though, because I guess they hit all new concurrent numbers with this expansion launch.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, it seems like they've been like pushing pretty hard with the advertising. So,
and honestly, like, I gotta say, all things considered, other than the couple of times that I did a data server transfer, things have been great.
Yeah.
And just the fact that there is an overflow option that allows you to keep playing in spite of not being able to be on the same server.
Yeah.
Like, that's been great.
Yeah, they gave people a way to dodge the queues, like, and basically the downside of taking it is you can't access your bank.
Right.
So like it's not great if you want to be able to like craft and stuff, but for just playing through the story, great. So anybody who wants to take that can take that. And at no point, like four of it, like, you know, we've completed the main story quest at this point, you know, and there was never a Rauban Savage.
No, not a
Everything
single
just
moment.
worked. I was shocked. Like apparently things were so smooth the first few days that a lot of people online were like getting real worried that like, oh no, is the game dying? There's no queues. But like the servers aren't melting. What's wrong? Is nobody playing?
No, they just did a lot of work ahead of time to make sure it was okay.
They did a lot of work and it paid off.
They learned from last time. Last time was sort of brutal.
It really was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and last time they also couldn't do anything because you couldn't get servers.
Yeah, the supply chain was horked.
But like they've built out this entire shadow data center that is never going to allow players to play on it. That's entirely as like a overflow. And like that's great. I mean, I love that they've done that. Anyway, we have probably rambled about this topic a lot, and now it's probably show. Any more thoughts? Any final thoughts to wrap up?
Have you heard the good news about corn?
What, like skulls for the skull throne?
No, the food. Again, Dawntrail.
Oh.
There is a whole series of corn-related side quests that you can do in Dawntrail. It's all having to do with what a wonderful foodstuff corn is and how many different things you can do with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I've done this week is it's very funny to me to hear people tearing their hair out about how difficult the Elden Ring DLC is. Because, buddy, what did you expect?
Yeah, it's Elden Ring.
My favorite thing about it is that it does a thing that the previous part of the game didn't, and like encourages you to try different builds.
That's nice.
Which is cool. It gives you some like neat options and opportunities to try different stuff, and like you should, because there's a lot of game there, and they make it actually really easy to switch your build around. But oh boy, if you're just like, no, this is my build, especially if like you're trying to be one of the hardcore players that doesn't use the things that are good, it's gonna wreck you. But man, it's more Elden Ring, but like it's good. It's cool to see they really understand being ominous and scale.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and hopefully we managed to walk that thin line of talking about Dawntrail without talking about Dawntrail. It is my hope that we will be able to record a spoiler show for Dawntrail in a much faster sequence than we did with Endwalker. Because like we were months behind on that. And I remember having to take notes to kind of remind myself about the story. So I'm looking forward to us having an eventual spoiler show where, because I have some thoughts about everything that just happened.
Yep, same. I definitely want to talk about this story.
Anyway, we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.
Thank you, Thalen.